So, welcome to another edition of the Membership World podcast. And I'm delighted to have with me John Stone from the Home Care Association. John, it's great to have you with us today, talking about your amazing organisation.
Yeah, it's lovely to be with you. I'm really pleased to be able to share a little bit about the Home Care Association, what we do, and how we support home care providers across the UK.
Yeah, great. So, shall we just start a little bit with what the Home Care Association is and how you personally got into it?
Of course, yeah. So the Home Care Association is a membership organisation for companies who provide carers in people's homes. So it's also known as domiciliary care, home care, that sort of thing. And we've got around 2,100 members spread all across the country. And we provide all of our members with support, advice, and guidance through our website. We have a dedicated phone line where they can call us up about any issues that they may have in running their business. And we also have partnerships with some specialist kind of third-party companies to provide more expert advice on legal, HR matters, things like that. And we also provide all of our members with the opportunity to meet together at events and conferences, attend training, webinars on the most pertinent issues in the sector. As well as we can run DBS checks, so criminal records checks for our members and non-members actually, but for our members. And we also do a lot of work in representing the home care sector. It's a very difficult sector to work in, I would say. There's lots of regulation, lots of legislation that affects how businesses are run. I mean, ultimately, what we're here to do is to provide a good quality of home care across the UK, because one day I may need home care. I do have members of my family who have received home care, so I'm invested in making sure that the sector provides the good quality as possible. So that's really my motivation and the mission of the organisation. In terms of how I got into the Home Care Association, so I've worked in a range of different membership organisations. I've specialised in kind of charity and non-profit sector my whole career, and I was previously at the membership association for PTAs, parent-teacher associations, raising money for schools all across the country. That's called Parent Kind. And the opportunity to come and work at the Home Care Association came up, and I jumped at the chance. And one of the reasons for that is that my wife was actually a registered manager of a home care provider, and she had been there she'd been doing that for the past 20 years. So kind of invested in that. I'd seen the challenges, but also the real benefits of providing that quality of home care service. So the opportunity to be able to come and work alongside a really dedicated team, alongside some really dedicated members, to really make a difference to the UK home care sector, and being able to just kind of make that quality of care happen. That's kind of my kind of key aim for being involved in this role.
Yeah, and of course, we've met at various events. I love your enthusiasm for what you are doing, and that obviously comes through. But like all industries, there are some challenges, aren't there? So, and I'm funny if you mentioned family. My own mother is just about to receive home care facilities, so I'm actually going to be going through this process, right now. So it's sort of very personal and current to me.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, we've got an aging population, and so the need for care has never been more important. But obviously, getting the right care facility and individual is personal. It can be challenging to find that. So
Yes.
Anyway, tell me more about the sector's challenges.
Yeah, so you're right around how difficult it can be to find home care. It's the sort of thing that actually you don't really know that you're going to need to know it until you really, really need to know it. And quite often that can be at quite a pace that you need to find that. You might have someone that's coming out of hospital and suddenly needs some help at home, or sudden kind of these things can come on fairly suddenly. So one of the things that we actually do is we run a find care service for members of the public, who can find who our members are on our website that are close to them and read a bit about them. And we also provide a phone answering service for that. And I have the joy of being able to help out on that service every so often. So it's great to speak to members of the public and kind of help explain kind of how the sector works for them. But in terms of the challenges that our home care provider members face, it really comes down to that it's a very regulated sector, which it should be, because it is really important that every bit of quality, every bit of care that's provided is of very high quality. So a bit of background on that. We have care regulators across the UK. Each of the 4 nations has their own care regulator. And every health and social care provider, including home care providers, needs to be registered with them in England. That's the Care Quality Commission, and as part of that registration, there are inspections and kind of quality checks and things like that. So there's a lot of legislation and a lot of regulation around care in the UK, which, as I say, that's a really, really good thing. And we support our members in making sure that they understand what those regulations are and how to meet those and exceed those and achieve an outstanding rating when they have their inspection. It's challenging, but for a good reason. But we do a lot of work actually with the Care Quality Commission and the other regulators to support them to make sure that they're measuring the right things, and that they're supporting providers to do the very best they can. The other thing around the sector is around funding for care. There's various funding sources, whether it be people that are state funded or where people have the resource to be able to fund that themselves personally. Particularly in relation to state funded care, it can be really difficult for our provider members to make ends meet, because the funders, generally it's the local councils or the local NHS bodies who are funding that care. They're really stretched. They're really stretched, and for them to be able to offer a rate for care that makes sense, that makes it a viable commercial kind of decision to be able to provide that sort of quality care in a regulated environment, making sure that you're valuing your carers can be really difficult. I mean, we do hear of some councils who are paying whose fee rates are actually less than the cost of having a member of staff turn up and providing them with all of the training and all of the kind of regulatory requirements as part of that. So that is always concerning, but it's also concerning in terms of our members who are working with people who are paying themselves, because the cost of living element of that. How much money do people have to be able to afford to pay for their own care, to get the level of service that they really need? So that can be really difficult for them. And then also finding members of staff to be able to provide that care, particularly because on the whole, care workers are generally paid close to the minimum wage for a job which I definitely do not think is a minimum wage job.
No.
I think it's that value that we associate with people who are working really hard to provide that quality care to the people that we really care about, and eventually perhaps to me.
Well, and also, John, it could be quite tough, because if you've got people that suffer from dementia, for example, that you've got a psychological difference and imbalance in an individual that can go from the nicest person to somebody that can be quite obstructive and in some cases even violent. So
yes.
you
Yeah,
know.
so it's a very skilled job
Absolutely.
being a carer,
Yeah,
and we often hear about carers who are actually they're giving up care, going to work in a supermarket, and sometimes it's actually I get paid more to go and work in the supermarket. And you think, how
crazy,
can
isn't
that be
it?
right? How can that
Yeah,
be right? And yeah, and I sort of kind of emphasise that's not because our members and the care providers are taking a big cut of the margin or anything like that. It's generally because of the funding pressures associated with that. We often find actually our members say we want to pay our staff more. We want to make sure that they're getting all of the benefits that we can give them. But actually, it becomes a real balancing act in terms of making the numbers work.
yeah, yeah. Honestly, it's almost like a systemized challenge. I know that the government, they look at the welfare bill at the moment and how much is going into social care. It's not enough. With
Yeah.
local authorities as well, a big part of their budget is going into social care. But because we're getting an older population, and you can't help thinking that there should be perhaps insurance provision for people, like they do in some other countries, to allow
Yes.
for that, because it's
Yeah.
what I'm really interested in is, obviously, you represent a significant amount within the sector, but like all associations, you want to drive more membership.
Absolutely.
And so tell us a little bit about some of the campaigns that you've run, not only to heighten the awareness of the sector, and obviously I like what you just said about making sure that people are well paid, and it should be a career choice, not something that people just fall into because they've got nothing else to do. A lot of things I often say when we're running associations is putting the value back into the job itself, to heighten the importance of it. So yeah, tell me more about the campaigns that you've run, John.
Yes, so we've so in terms of recruitment campaigns, one of the things that we've done relatively recently, which has been really successful, and actually it's not just about recruitment; it's also about our engagement with members. Is
Mm,
bringing our events to our members. I mean, we do a lot of things online. We do, and in general, our conferences that we have are in London, just because it is quite accessible for our membership. But we do often find that, particularly for people who are there, kind of involved in that work day to day, trying to manage the rotas, trying to cover calls, taking time out of work to travel down to London to come to a conference can be really difficult, and sometimes it's around the cost as well. So
mm,
one thing that we've been doing over the past year with great success is do these roadshow kind of events to
right.
share with people about our insight into the sector, and they're open to members and non-members, and we don't charge anything for them. And we go around to, I mean, we pick areas of the country that we feel will be most beneficial in terms of member recruitment and engagement as well. And we have people from our policy team who are well aware of the issues that they're facing and the work that we're doing to support in those areas. And they talk to them. We convene round tables, so that they can kind of share issues that are pertinent to them in their areas. And
Mm,
that's a really good way by which we can make existing members have an opportunity to engage in a bit of a different way, and also where people might be interested in becoming members, so we can get in front of them and really show actually this is the value of becoming a member of ours. We kind of give them a bit of a taster, and
mm.
then we hope that they'll then want to join. So that's been a really interesting campaign that we were running that as a bit of a pilot over the past year, and they've worked so well. It's something we are doing on an ongoing basis. In terms of other campaigns that we run, have you got any questions on that?
No,
Or
I was just going to say
thinking?
specifically any like government policy-led campaigns about the sector overall, where you're banging the drum and your members can be seen to be doing that.
Yes, absolutely. So we've been involved in a range of different different opportunities to really highlight those issues with the government. And it's really around making sure that we're at the right places at the right time, that we're seen as the people that can really be involved and help with the answers to some of the issues that the government are facing. I'm struggling to think of some particular examples there.
That's all right. Yeah. I mean, I think what I was particularly interested in is the alignment between why members would join. Sometimes one of the challenges that associations have is that they admire what an association is doing for their industry, but don't see the necessary specific benefit to them. They're just quite happy for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, how do you have like a hero benefit that people say, we need to belong to Home Care Association because?
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we could come back onto the policy and the campaigns. We could kind of cut that in, if that's all right. And it kind of does link into that kind of hero benefit as well. So one of the things that we do is as I said earlier, funding is a key issue, particularly funding from local councils is a key issue. So we do a series of reports that the first one looks into actually what is the cost of running a home care provider. What is the cost, the minimum, we call it the minimum price of home care. And we take in lots of data from our members so that we can kind of work backwards in terms of what does the staff cost, plus all of the on costs, plus all of the supervision costs, things like that, so that we can really produce a real good benchmark for actually what does it actually cost to fund care. And then building on that, we then also link that in with a report where we do freedom of information requests of funders across the whole of the UK to find out what fee rates they're actually paying. So on one hand, we say what's actually happening in the real world versus what really needs to happen in order to find this, to be able to provide this quality home care, to then look at actually what is this gap. And that then really helps us and actually helps our members. We often hear of our members who are using these resources when they're having their fee discussions with their funders, say, actually, look, I know you're saying this is the rate that you're willing to pay, but this is actually how much the Home Care Association, well-respected membership organisation for our sector, this is how much they say it costs for us to deliver the care. And what we can then do is we can go to central government and be able to share with them, this is what's happening out there, and this is what it really costs, and this is the gap. And really, we're able to then give stats about actually this is the gap, and this is the funding gap that needs to close in this case, and really making that cost of care visible out there in the market. And lots of our members find that really useful. And actually, that's one thing that you have to be a member to get all of the detail of what that is. We do share some of that detail with our stakeholders as well, but that's a real membership draw as well.
It's really important that you say that, because I think so often, when you're in front of government, they, stats can help hugely in having, to be honest, the government and all of the civil servants can never have a micro knowledge like individual trade associations have. And that's why I think they can rely on organizations like you to make better informed decisions. But then when you start to get sort of case studies from the sector as well, you're in a much stronger position to be able to say, look, this needs to be fixed. But I think it's also a political hot potato care, isn't it?
Yes,
I mean, let's be honest. And so and you're right in saying that when people are involved in it, they can realize that we need to prepare for this, because this is a big hit on somebody's potential savings. And then you're saying quite rightly that Um, you know, it's because of the funding issues, is that some of your members are struggling to deliver for what they're getting from their local authority. So you're playing a really important role in trying to unblock the chain, aren't you? Which is what I'm hearing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it can be really difficult because people who are thinking about becoming members, they see this work that we're doing with the government, and they think, well, actually, you're going to do that whether I'm a member or not.
Well,
And
exactly.
actually, the strength of our membership really comes from that collective voice and that
Mm.
collective grouping, as the more the financial kind of aspects of it. That if we have more members, there's more that we can do. But it's also around that voice, that if we're the voice for the sector, the more people that we're speaking on behalf of, the better. And so
And
it's really how we get members to see that actually they need to be part of this movement in
yeah.
order to support what we're doing and in order to get their voice heard.
Yeah, and it's really, I like what you said there, and it reminds me of a situation I had in a former association, where you're almost saying to somebody, let's forget the benefits. This is about the sector that you are in, that you are making a living in, and almost play to their emotional impact. Do you want,
Absolutely.
do you want to make a difference?
Yeah.
And I've had people where I've brought people into an organization almost onto the board because they were almost like a complainer from the outside saying this isn't right. And that's what I said. I'll tell you what, you're so passionate about it, come
Yeah.
join us,
Yeah.
with your fork stick,
Absolutely. And I think
because that's
that's a
what we
really
want, being
interesting thing
passionate people.
yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing for membership organisations, in terms of actually being part of that club. And if I think personally, I'm a member of a number of professional associations and things like that, and I don't use many of the benefits, but the
No.
fact that I'm part of that, it
Mm,
makes me feel like I'm part of something bigger. I can
yeah.
access lots of resources should I need them. The fact maybe I don't actually access them, that's a different matter. But I think it's important to be part of a movement, to be part of
Yeah.
something that making a real difference in the sector and in your day-to-day work.
Well, if you look at most surveys and you look at why people belong to various membership organization, the one thing that comes up within the first two or three is a sense of belonging.
Yes,
And that is a really important thing. I remember when I used to send out and I would list a number of different member benefits, I would always finish with one of those benefits as because it's the right thing to do.
yes, yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that was a lovely way to finish off. Yes, you get this, and yes, you get this, and here's the value. This is why we do it, but also because it's the right thing to do. And
Yeah,
it's incredible how people would, you'd have that go on then moment, and somebody said, "Come on then, let's get involved."
yeah,
But it's like, for example, a union every now and again almost needs a strike. It needs a reason to galvanize people
yeah,
to
yeah,
do something. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not saying it's we should be having strikes all the time, not at all. But it's the sense of having a unified campaign effort where they don't just look at their association as doing everything, but they feel absolutely connected to it.
yeah. And I do realise it can be really hard running a home care business. I've seen that. I've seen that
Of course,
on a personal level, and
of course.
so I get it. When people are looking at their finances, they're going through and they look at their okay, home care association membership. Oh, it's not much money, but if it's a choice between that or paying your staff, I can completely get it. It's about actually how can we demonstrate that value of being a member. And but actually it's when things get tough, when things get really tough, you're not on your own. You've got
Exactly.
an opportunity to engage with other people, to talk to other people who are in the same situation that you are, get some of
Mm,
their ideas, but even to go, actually, there is going to be there is another way out of this. There is, this isn't all doom and gloom. Actually, we need to work together. And if you look at, a whole range of different businesses, you'll see there's often these cycles that, these problems happen again and again. and there is a future in this.
Well, it can be quite cathartic, because it could be that somebody in another part of the country is got a particular initiative to help solve a problem that somebody else is saying, "Oh, I really like that. That's a really
Yes.
cool idea."
Yeah.
Because I guess a lot of home care businesses are quite regionally based, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yes.
You're not
Yeah.
necessarily, you know, competing right across the country.
Absolutely.
Okay, great stuff. I want to just sort of finish with the franchise discussion, really, because there are quite a few of your members that are franchises. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, so yes, we've got in our membership, we've got some of the franchised home care providers that work all across the country, all the big names that you'll see on your local high street, and you'll get leaflets put through your door about. And that it's a really interesting way by which we support our franchise members. So typically, you'll have the head office franchisor, who is the one that's providing the brand, providing all of that support, and that sometimes IT systems, sometimes marketing and things like that. And then you'll get the individual franchise owners, as it were, who are those people that are running all of those businesses across the country. And actually, as part of that operating model, they get some of that support from their head office when they've got issues and things like that. So it's a way by which we can. How do we need to provide them and identify them with them a different sort of member offer? Because we offer like the head office, the head franchisor, certain services and certain benefits. We provide the individual franchisees with different benefits than we may do to members who are just their own individual businesses without that head office. So it's really just thinking about actually how do all of these different members in our membership, what different benefits do they get from us? What do they value in what we provide? And it's about we don't just kind of do one size fits all for all of our members, but I think that kind of goes a bit deeper into personalization. Is that everyone is a bit different, and actually everyone gets something and needs a different thing from their membership. So how can we gather all of that data to make sure that we know who our members are, what they're doing, and what's relevant to them, so that then we can offer them information that is most relevant to them. So that's a really interesting kind of thing to think about, particularly, and I think particularly in relation to the franchises, where their head office does provide some of that support. So we've had a bit of a think about how we can make sure that our franchises and the franchisors, the head offices, are getting the value of being in membership. So it's an interesting path that we're going down on that.
Fascinating. Yeah. Okay. So, what's the future look like then, John, for the organisation? I know it's a bit of a crystal ball at times, and it's a part of the public sector, but what sort of plans have you got?
Yeah, so absolutely. So it's really about keeping up to date with all of the latest changes that are coming about, the legislative changes. So there's a lot of changes coming in employment law that's going to be impacting our members. We're thinking about 0 hours contracts, and the right to request shifts, and changes in sick pay, which come into effect last week actually. So it's all of that, and thinking about how does that actually affect our members and how we can support our members with that. There's a lot of work going on at the moment from the government in terms of looking at how care is structured and how things might change for the future. We're involved with the commission that's looking at that. It's called the Casey Commission, and how we can influence all of those changes that are coming, so that we can advocate the best for the home care sector. Because we're the only membership association that is here to exclusively support home care providers. So we provide a really detailed insight to how these changes are going to impact our members and the home care sector on a wider basis. So it's really about how we can influence what the changes are going to be and how the government's thinking about things, and then also how we can support our members through that. What resources do they need? What are people going to ask when they phone us up? How can we kind of introduce models for them to be able to work through all of this? What other businesses can we work with that can help them? And how can we kind of promote businesses we work with to them? And also then, as always, looking at our membership and really understanding what our member offer is, and that changes all the time. So it's not a once and done thing. So yeah, there's continual looking at all of that.
I love that, and I think it's so important in this age of AI, where information is so much more freely available. Associations have really got to be relevant, 24/7, and have a reason for being. And I think it's so important that you don't just have the one size fits all benefits package. It's constantly evolving. It's different things for different people, and it sounds like you're on top of it all in your organization.
Well, we're trying.
So how can people find out more about you, John?
LinkedIn is the best way to find out about me. So John Stone, I'm the Director of Corporate Services at the Home Care Association. Always happy to connect with people, always happy to have a chat, find out more. I think it's really important as a membership sector that actually we come together. And that's why I really love working with that membership world. I find that those conversations that I'm able to have at those membership world events are absolutely brilliant, to be able to create those connections with each other. Because just like our members benefit from speaking to other members, we benefit from speaking to other membership professionals about things and creating those informal or formal networks with each other. So that's really important. If you want to find out more about the Home Care Association, you can just look us up on the website, homecareassociation.org.uk, find out all about us there. If you're a home care provider, would love to have a conversation about you joining our membership.
Great. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you.